Welcome back, everyone, and thank you for taking part in our third plenary session of the day. In this session, we'll look into the important issue of climate education. In fact, education is one of the most effective tools to tackle climate change, but a rather wide gap remains between policy and practice. Specifically, in this session, we want to know how we can ensure that climate literacy is not just a superficial concept, but a lived reality in classrooms and communities around the world. This session brings together experts and changemakers who are making climate education accessible, relevant, and action-oriented. The session will be moderated by my dear co-host, Monica Feuerler. Monica, the floor is yours.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. I'm so happy to see many faces this afternoon still with us. You have chosen wisely because this session will actually be hopefully even provocative. Having talked to our panelists before, you're in for a very, very interesting discussion. So we are looking at climate education, and we are looking at climate education, how to bridge the policy that is out there with the practice that we all want to see. And we have fantastic experts with us here today, and allow me to introduce them one after the other. So right next to me is Ambassador Chang Rek-won. He is renowned for his stellar career at the United Nations, UN ESCAP. He was also serving on the Secretariat of the IPCC, but he is right now serving as chairman of the International Award Committee of the Global Energy Prize. He's also a board member of the Ban Ki-moon Foundation and professor emeritus at Tashkent University, State University of Economics. He's an advocate, and ladies and gentlemen, you will hear that, of the green growth paradigm, and you will all leave this room knowing what that is. So thanks a lot for joining us. The next speaker I'm allowed to introduce to you is Dave Kim. He is senior advisor to the president and chair of the Global Green Growth Institute. And yes, you guessed right, the chair and president of the Global Green Growth Institute is no one but His Excellency Ban Ki-moon himself. So Dave Kim is a key advisor to Secretary General, former Secretary General Ban. Thank you so much for being with us. The third person on the panel that I would like to introduce to you is Young-Suk Lee. She is a Chief Program Specialist of the Office of External Relations and Information at UNESCO Asia Pacific Center of Education and International Understanding, APCEU. Maybe some of you know that center. It is the institution under the UNESCO framework that is doing a lot for global citizenship education and education for sustainable development in Korea. And it shines a light for many, many other partners around the globe. So thank you very much for being here. And last but by no means least, our fourth panelist today is Garam Dion. Garam is a scout, so maybe some of you are also part of the Scouts movement. She's a special scout because she's the youth representative of the World Scouting Asia Pacific Regional Scouting and a student president for the Korea Development Institute. And above all of that, you are a specialist in non-formal education and youth-led development. So please give our panelists a warm round of applause for spending the time with us. I promised you that this panel will be a bit provocative. And hence, dear Ambassador Chang, I will hand the floor to you to give us an incentive speech that you have given in parts to us at the panel, and we were all fascinated. So 10 minutes will be an interesting introduction into a new paradigm on climate action. Over to you, Ambassador.
Yeah. Good afternoon. Thanks for inviting me for this very important session. And as a person who started the climate business from 1991, I spent almost all my life from 91, more than 30 years until today, for climate agenda. So I feel a little bit guilty because the climate is getting worse. So that means that I failed and I wasted my life. And especially, I think that the climate agenda is just standing at a crossroad at this time because of, as you know, I don't have to talk about it a lot about, but United States is pulling out of the Paris Climate Agreement, and many people are wondering what is going to happen. So we are seeing this twice already. He pulled it before, and now he does it again. So what should be our course of action in the coming decade. And the 2030 is already coming very close, right? And we have NDC. I hope people who are here know NDC, right? Nationally determined contribution. I don't have to explain it, right? So each government has already set a target. Korean government set it 40% reduction. But do you know, any of you know how much Korean government reduced until now? When we announced it from 2018, and then, so we are in a very difficult, and now we still have a vivid memory of the Los Angeles wildfire, and all the climate disaster is happening around the world. It doesn't matter whether it's a developed or developing country, so it is already hitting, and the climate crisis is already happening. It's not the future agenda, but still, as we can see around the world, the politicians are so much interested in extremely short-term commercial and economic interest and ignoring the long-term agenda. This is becoming a kind of a very powerful trend and getting even stronger as time goes on. So what shall we do in the face of such a very difficult uphill battle? And actually, I promote the idea of a green growth idea from 2005, and I've been pushing uphill battle of promoting green growth agenda. But I've now has to confess that even though Dave is here from GGGI, but the green growth agenda is still facing a lot of difficult challenges around the world. And so I believe at this moment we have to have a real soul searching on why climate agenda is failing. We have to have a clear idea about it. Otherwise, we will never be able to get out of this deadlock and dire, the quagmire, I think. So let me, I will go very quickly, yeah. This is what is Paris Climate Agreement? This is my interpretation about what Paris Climate Agreement means and what is the limitation of a Paris Climate Agreement. We all expect, because Paris Climate Agreement is the only our hope to solve the problem, right? But is it a real strong tool that we can really rely on it and expect that it can solve our problem? This is something we have to have a clear idea about it. First of all, I think the Paris Climate Agreement is a top-down approach. NDC is set by government and imposing on the business. But this approach has a clear limitations of excluding consumers. So consumers are left out as outsider. So we don't talk about how we can engage consumers. This is limited. Second, and we are counting carbon emission from GDP. GDP, this means production. And what is the problem of counting emission from production? Yes, there's a big problem because these days we have a huge volume of trade. Let me show the case of China. China is exporting. China is a factory of the world and exporting almost all the items to the whole world. We are using Chinese product. Chinese are not consuming all the production they are making. They are exporting it. But under this Paris Climate Agreement regime, China is responsible. We are not responsible. Consumers are not responsible. What is it? Is it a matter, a serious issue? Yes, it's a serious issue. Why? Look at the case of European Union, for example, because Europe is a more typical issue. Because many of countries in Europe, like UK or Sweden, these countries, their territorial emission from their own activity, production, is less than half, and more than half of emission is actually embedded in their import. They are importing almost everything. And the carbon embedded in the import is bigger than their national territorial emission. But they are reporting only less than half of their consumption emission to the UN. And they are responsible only less than half of their consumption emission, and the rest is, the responsibility is put on the producers and exporters. This is a serious problem. Why? It is triggering carbon leakage. So globally, there's no reduction. European emission reduction only moved away from Europe to China. So globally, there was no reduction. It has been growing and growing and growing. So we failed to have a global reduction, and also putting the responsibility only on the producer, exporter means they are mainly, the exporters are developing countries, because they have to earn hard currency, US dollar, to earn their living. So they have to export it like China did. Korea, we did it too. So we have to earn the hard currency. So our life depends on export. But how can you put the responsibility on the exporters? So this is the limitation. Another one is financing and technology. Why financing and technology is a problem? Because you might remember the $100 billion or $300 billion the number, and the delegates in the COP wasting 2 weeks of time fighting over whether 100 billion or 300 billion, as if they agree on 300 billion, as if we can solve the problem. That's not true. Even you agree on 300 billion, what does that mean? Nobody will give you 300 billion in the whole world at this time of the economic downturn. And so we have to focus more on carbon pricing, because why money and technology is not flowing for climate action is because the price is not right. So we have to fix the price. Then we don't have to worry about climate financing, because money will be flowing naturally by the profit incentives. So this is something that the limitation. So I mentioned a free market to sustainable market. I'll tell you about it later. Maybe I'm not already, I spend a lot of time. And another one is a short-term perspective. Too much short-term perspective. And so we are regarding energy transition as cost. But in the long run, actually, it is an investment. It's not cost. The Chinese success of a battery, electric vehicle, solar panel of China is a proof that spending money on climate action is actually opening up blue ocean of new climate industry competitiveness. China is the example. And another the fundamental problem, the Paris climate regime is non-legally binding. What will happen if by 2030, if United States, Korea, or any other country say that, oh, I'm sorry, I couldn't meet the target, then what will happen? Anything will happen about it? Nothing will happen. And we have been doing this. In 2009, when I was a climate change ambassador, we had a huge, at that time, big issue was, what will be the target for Korea for 2020? At that time, we set the target at 30%. As if they were arguing 30% is too much, Korea will collapse if we reduce 30%. There's a lot of controversy about it. And we somehow announced 30%. But by 2020, we don't even remember where we announced 2030. Not only Korea, everybody at that time. At that time, more than 120 countries announced the target at that time. United States announced like 25%, or China announced the carbon intensity reduction. Everybody announced it, but we even forget about it by 2020. So there's no guarantee that we will not repeat the same mistake. So this is why we need a completely new climate paradigm. So I'm not sure whether I have enough time, but I will just, I will not explain about it. I already said a lot about it, but I will just focus on PDC. Personally determine the contribution. This is a concept I'm promoting myself, because now I believe we can no longer depend on government and the business to solve the problem for us. We have to be the driver, we mean consumer. Consumer has to be the driver of climate action. Don't expect government, business will solve the problem for us. That's a nonsense. We have to share the price and the burden, and we should choose green product, carbon-free product, and we should be ready to pay extra cost for it. Otherwise, there's no way we can solve the problem. So I call it personally determine the contribution. From the companies, I call it CDC, corporate determine the contribution. And then how we can do that? This is the most important part. Price differentiation. I am not proposing price differentiation. We should have a two price for electricity. At the moment, we have only one price, but we should have a two price. One green electricity price, the other one is regular price. Green electricity price should come from solar and wind, renewable energy. It should be more expensive, because it's more expensive. In Korea, it's almost three times more expensive than coal. But Korean power company is paying twice the price and selling at low price. This is nonsense. So they have to buy the solar renewable energy and set at the proper price, like 20 cents per kilowatt. Now it's only 10 cents per kilowatt in Korea. But then you might wonder, who will pay 20 cents more expensive price for electricity? Yes, some people like you here. These people, I believe, you are the ones who are worrying about climate crisis, right? Then you should be ready to pay a green price. You cannot expect the government or Korea Power Company will solve the problem. We have to pay for it. So this is a new paradigm. This is what I call new paradigm. And this cannot be done only by economic pricing. It has to be coupled with a social campaign, social instrument. I call it Me First campaign. We should have mindset change. That I should be the first to share the responsibility, not pushing it to somebody, the government or the business. So this is something and then so the others are, already I explained a little bit. So I will stop here probably. And then actually I recently, you can Google BJC journal, broadcasted journal BJC in Korean journal. I wrote an article, how we can make climate action survive Trump era. That was an article I wrote in the Korean journal, so you can check out in Naver, BJC, and in the Korean language journal, and type my name, and then you can find my article. I can explain everything. I'm sorry, too long. Yeah, thank you.
Wonderful. We have heard a statement that is quite, I think, revolutionary in many respects. And I saw mobile phones up, I saw heads nodding, and I heard even laughter. So, Ambassador, you did an excellent job in convincing maybe some of the minds in here. But, dear Dave Kim, did Ambassador do a good job in convincing you? You are a policy expert yourself. You are working for GGGI, so you know really a lot about climate policy. My question to you would be, where do you see the biggest gaps between climate education policy and the actual implementation? And maybe you want to comment on what we just heard as well.
Thank you, Monica. First of all, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for the invitation. I have to confess, I am a policy geek, a wonk, as you rightfully said. So this is so exciting. And listening to Ambassador Chung, I think I could listen to him for a very long time. And I will certainly Google his journal that he just mentioned. So a long time ago, when I was studying in the US, and later I became a researcher, I fell in love with policy, international relations, the way countries cooperate and compete against one another. So I think this is fascinating. But if you look around now, there are very many empty seats. Why is that? And I think it's because, again, this new paradigm and these new ideas that Ambassador Chung is just spoken about just blows my mind, right? And it's just so fascinating. But I think it's just climate education. It's not sexy, right? It's not cool. I'm reminded listening to Ambassador Chung about the tragedy of the commons 30 years ago, 30-something years ago when I first learned about it, or the dilemma of the commons. It's where Garrett Hardin talked about you have the commons like a grass field, right? And you have cattle ranchers. And as population grows and people become more sophisticated, then the number of cattle head expands, and eventually it reaches that point where the grass cannot grow itself and sustain itself, and there are just too many cattle. But in the rational self-interest of the cattle ranchers, they will say, well, why don't you keep your cattle count down to 20? Why I have 40 or 60 or more? And then what happens is that common good collapses. And I think it's sort of like emissions. It's the same thing, except the other way, right? Rather than me want to lower my emissions, we are looking at each other saying, why don't you keep your emissions down, and I will continue to emit so many equivalent tons per year. And while the climate education topic is not sexy and cool, what is? Tesla electric vehicles, right? Or their energy storage systems, carbon capture, artificial photosynthesis. There are so many cool, sexy things. But I think it's the previous generation. I'm Generation X, and I think I was the first generation where we were taught you have to love what you do in order to become a successful person. But my parents' generation, they didn't have that luxury, right? You worked in a factory whether you liked it or not because you had to survive. But climate education is not sexy, it's not attractive, and it's not popular in some ways. And there's a good reason for it too, and it's because it's very complicated. The impacts and its implications are vast and very interlinked. It's also very new, which means it's constantly evolving. There are new discoveries, new changes in climate is constantly making it difficult to learn and to be educated on climate. So it requires constant learning and adapting to what we are learning and what we are teaching. It might not be accurate or relevant anymore, what we studied or what we taught 10 years ago when it came to climate education. So I think that's a big thing. And in order to make it more cool and sexy, I think we have to find ways to incentivize or make it more attractive. And I would guess it's not cutting edge green technology, perhaps, but I would guess that Ambassador Chung, talking about his PDCs, the personally determined contributions, there are probably ways we can give credits for climate educators, people in the industry, in order to make it more attractive and close the gap that we have so much in climate education. I'll stop there for now.
Thanks so much, Dave. Interesting. So credits to educators. It's a perfect segue for talking to UNESCO APSEU. You know UNESCO, the big entity caring for education and culture, and APSEU being a branch here in Korea, hosted in Seoul. You have been a beacon of hope for ESD, Education for Sustainable Development and Global Citizenship Education. My question to you is, how can we really have effective strategies of translating policy into action on the ground?
Thank you, Monica. And I'd like to express my sincere appreciation to my previous speakers. Very insightful, educational, and provocative. And I'd also like to say thank you to the audience present here today. Well, while listening to our distinguished speakers, I've been feeling guilty because, if Ambassador Chung is feeling guilty because the climate is worsening, then I'm also feeling guilty because after so many years of efforts to promote global citizenship education, why the world we are living today is like this? We are having so many more conflicts, crises, etc., and worsening gap between the haves and the have-nots. But then, yes, still, I believe in the power of hope, and I believe in the power of education. As Monica mentioned, APSEU is a UNESCO center, and our mandate is to promote education for international understanding and global citizenship. And although David mentioned that climate education is not sexy, but later I should also provoke him. I would rather say that these days, while pursuing your self-interest only or pursuing your national interest only is not sexy. Pursuing public good and trying to make a positive change or trying to increase your positive influence on each other, to me, is really attractive. And, I'm really convinced that all of you agree with me on the point that in making some progress with climate education, fostering global citizenship is crucial. You know, these days, you know, just having digital skills or fancy foreign language proficiency are not enough. You know, we need to have a global perspective, and we need to critically understand. We need to be able to critically understand the very complex interconnectedness and interdependence. And these days, climate crisis is not just about climate. It is a human rights crisis, and it is about our survival. And then we need also a reflective mindset. We need to share the sense of belonging to a common humanity, and we need an attitude of active participation. We need an active, engaging attitude. These are really the core notions of global citizenship education. So, and I did, sorry, I'm feeling that I didn't answer your question really directly, but I should insist that education matters, particularly global citizenship education matters and provides an effective approach or strategy in advancing climate education. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Let me actually do a quick poll with the audience, because I would like to know who of you dares to raise their hand when I say, are you a global citizen? If you think you are, please raise your hand. Are you a global citizen? So I see some hands up. Wonderful, great. Let me ask you as well, I put Dave's assertion to a question. Who thinks that climate education is not really sexy? Hands up, climate education is not sexy. Who dares in this audience? No one. Oh, that's great. You're in the right spot then. But Dave is probably right that many people out there see it that way. And who has actually picked up an idea in Ambassador Chang's new paradigm, revolutionary thinking about climate that they didn't have before after today's session? Like, who has picked up a new thought from Ambassador Chang? Some hands are up. I hope many of you will read his article. But dear Garam, we are up to hear what is actually happening at grassroots level, because you can give us examples of how youth has already become active in mobilizing for climate action. So we are shifting away from the policy perspectives to the actual practice. Tell us.
Thank you, Monica. Good afternoon. My name is Garam. I'm representing more than 57 million young scouts all around the world. Maybe you will remember this scarf maybe 2 years ago in Seoul National Metro Station everywhere after the Jamboree maybe. So yes, I came from that organization. Today I'd like to share what is the emphasize on critical's role of non-formal educations and what is the gap between the policy and practice field. And I'd like to sharing the wise saying from our founders, Baden-Powell's. He always say learning by doing. So this wise saying is very insightful for me when I was young, and so far I always sharing to the very young scouts as well. Today, the reason why I mentioned the learning by doing this saying is because non-formal education is more focusing on experimental learning methods rather than theoretical methods. So today, one thing that what I want to share impactful examples from World Scouting is called Scouts for SDG. Scouts for SDG has been collaborated together with the United Nations in 2018 with the 17 Sustainable Development Goals into the youth program and youth project. There's a lot of things we've done, but because of the limited times, let me share one initiatives from the Africa Scout regions. So the Africa Scout regions, they did a very amazing initiatives by young people themselves. The initiative called the Great Green Wall. The Great Green Wall, this has been starting and implementing in 2018. And what they were doing in that initiatives, you will asking to me, what did they do inside that initiatives and how did they do by themselves and where did they got the fund? Because when we wanted to proceed the initiatives by youth leading, then everyone will thinking about how can we do? Because we don't have any money, right? So, first of all, the motivation for the Africa Scouts was a desertification of the crisis in Sahel's regions. At the moment, they noticed and they realized that the desertification in Sahel region is very severe climate crisis. So the brilliant young scouts from the Africa regions, they brought up this issue and collected the precise data directly to the government. So luckily, the government officials, they noticed, wow, the young people from the scouts, they did amazing, they found amazing thing. So they put this small group directly to the COP27 and 26 and 27, which is very huge international organizations, forum and events as well. Then they got a chance to represent at that events to secure the youth funds for their making a solutions. Then later they came back to their communities and they share with the citizens and also governments, NGO like World Scoutings with other nationals and also like Senegal and Chad, several countries as well. Then that organization and that troop has been widened and widened. So basically the funds was sponsored and most of the fund has been sponsored by the FAO and also Africa Development Bank. So they got a really good chance to prevent the desertification in their regions. The outcome was very successful. At the moment, 5 kilometers per year has been widened and widened every single year. But after these young brilliant scouts proceeds this kind of initiatives, then outcome has been prevent the 18 million hectares in that Sahel region has been recovered. And also they got a 305,000 job has been making as well. So I would say they have been a very brilliant.
The Scouts have really shifted the needle in some contexts, in some communities. That's brilliant. Now, the Ban Ki-moon Center as well, we are very happy to work with the Scouts and of course also APSEU and GGGI and many other stakeholders. But what we are particularly proud of is our Young Changemakers program, where we can award changemakers such as Garam, who have done amazingly well on shifting policy to practice. And I want to show you one example, and I'm asking the technicians to show us a video that is called She Shapes Nature of one of our wonderful changemakers in Africa who has changed the lives of many women. This is actually, ladies and gentlemen, a world premiere. This trailer has not been shown before. You are the first audience that sees it. We awarded Suhura, a changemaker from Tanzania, with the Ban Ki-moon Award of Elevating Voices of Women in Africa. And this is the trailer of a documentary that will soon be online and you can view it all. So please show us the trailer. We at the Ban Ki-moon Center, we believe in global citizen leaders. In our Elevating Voices of Women in Agriculture campaign, the EWA campaign, we are awarding one specific champion every year out of a cohort of many that we curate. And this year we are very happy to announce in 2024 that a champion from Tanzania made the race. Her name is Suhura, and she is a seaweed farmer.
By 2022, I found She Shapes Nature and acts as a bridge to connect those women with potential stakeholders to access the resources that they need to unlock the potential seaweed sector and to enhance their skills for them to have their sustainable economic development.
She's working with many other farmers to produce seaweed products that are market ready, from oils to cosmetics to all sorts of soaps. Young people that are active on the ground, that take action on the ground, that bring solutions to everyday challenges of climate change.
Climate change is real, and climate change is affecting the most vulnerable around the world: women, youth, and millions of smallholder farmers.
And Suhura is a real EVA change maker, to the extent that she is not only empowering her own self, but also a whole community of female farmers that she's working with. So this is the short story of Suhura, who has empowered many ladies, and I know that there are many, many scouts that are doing just that. And I encourage all of you as well, if you still haven't set for a career that is of service to others. But with this in mind, let me turn to the panelists again and ask you, we have now heard examples of collaboration that was fruitful, but we have also heard provocative policy assertions. How do you think can we better collaboration on making, Dave, I'm quoting you again, making climate education maybe a bit more sexy? What can we do? Do you have ideas that you would like to contribute to this question?
Well, I don't know how to make it sexy. I think Ambassador Chung would have a better idea. I think I should stop using that word for the rest of the day. But I did want to share, GGGI is it's a treaty-based intergovernmental organization with 49 member states currently. In, I think, about a month from now, we will have number 50, the 50th member state, and we are constantly growing. We were established in 2012 with a mission to help its member states accelerate green growth throughout the world. And so what I wanted to say was that our member counterparts tend to be national or central governments mostly, as well as regional governments, but because we are government-to-government organization, what we do is we provide two broad areas of technical assistance to our member states. One would be developing green policy and national strategy, which includes more ambitious NDCs, national adaptation plans, and things like that. The second group would be to mobilize green investments, climate finance to fund those policies, and of course bankable projects in the country. And what we can do, and I think it's, again, when I was saying sexy, I said the word one more time, I guess I'm not criticizing climate education, obviously, but what I'm saying is the moral elements that my colleague here just talked about, you know, that should be incentive, but it's not incentive enough, apparently, for a lot of people, right? So how to make it more attractive? One of the things that we are doing at GGGI is when we help integrate green growth strategies into national policies, we include climate education in their policies, in their national policies. We also support the capacity building, training the trainers, right, and the policymakers, working with universities for curriculum development, teaching materials, etc. We also strengthen community engagement. We have done a number of what we call GESI, Gender Equality and Social Inclusion workshops, so that more people in our member states would understand the policy, the legal, the institutional frameworks. And of course, we emphasize women and youth, the vulnerable or the excluded groups too often throughout the world. And lastly, we help strengthen monitoring and evaluations. by developing frameworks to assess the effectiveness. And I'll just give two quick examples. One is from last year, Mongolia, with support from GCF, the Green Climate Fund. We worked with the Ministry of Environment of Mongolia to include the development of a provincial climate change action plan in our agreement. So it helped to strengthen the capacity of the government staff in 21 provinces throughout Mongolia to integrate climate change and NDCs in the subnational level, planning and also implementation. And the results were that we helped to address the limitations in planning, the lack of knowledge, the no priority for climate within those local governments, the implementation, they lacked the financial resources, how to integrate between the ministries and agencies. Another example is in Ethiopia with the support of KOICA, the Korean agency here. We worked with Korea University and Hawassa University in Ethiopia, as well as the local governments and NGOs in Ethiopia to increase capacity in the government's forest management, public awareness, and all of these types of things. I think I'm taking up a little bit too much time, so I'll stop there, but we can talk more about how GGGI is trying to close that gap, right? Bridge the gap between climate and action. Thank you.
Wonderful, thank you. GGGI being a sample of collaboration. Who else wants to respond maybe to, yes, Ambassador Chang, please kick us off.
I found in the program, the next session looks very exciting. The youth-led solution for a sustainable future. And are students already here, or who will be speaking? Are you already here? Oh, good. I hope to stay on this panel, and because I want to listen to, because I'm always targeting the young generation, and we are talking about education, but education for climate is something not sexy, but very cool. And when I am giving lectures to the students in the university in Central Asia, in other European countries, I am asking them, are you ready to pay a higher price for carbon-free product? Then, surprisingly, even in a very low-income Central Asian country, universities, most of them raise their hand. They are willing to pay a higher price for carbon-free energy, carbon-free product. So I see there's a hope and expectation for young generation can be the driver of a new. And why? Because they think there's a certain kind of strong demands from the minds of the young generation. They are worried about their future. It's a human instinct. So, they are exploring, what should I do? But they still don't know the answer. So they're exploring, and they observe it when I give them some ideas. So they're acting very quickly. I don't have time to explain, but some of the examples of the Me First campaign, some students already did it, and so I don't have time. So I will be very quickly. The essence of environment or climate education should be, you should be ready to pay the price of climate. Don't expect it is free. Somebody will give it to free. So it's a mindset change. Why we have a GGGI Institute? Because green growth cannot be done naturally by the market. That's why we set up this center and pushing it, because it doesn't happen in the market. So then so market means our system. Our economic system is a free market system. But free market means cheapest price wins the competition. Then how can carbon-free energy, carbon-free product can win the competition? Very difficult. This is why we have a GGGI, to support it. But in order to make it really happen naturally, only way we can do is if the young generation willing to pay higher price for green energy and product, and then we can solve the problem.
I agree, and yet I would claim also the elder generation would need to be willing to pay, because the young ones are short of means and they still need to build up their lives. So,
can I add on that? I had the same discussion with the governor of Central Bank of Hungary. Even though I'm proposing PDC and Me First, I'm also worried how many people actually really pay higher cost for it. Yeah, I have a concern for that. That's why I'm promoting Me First campaign. Then he said, don't worry, 5% is enough to change the society. We don't need 100%. If the 5% pioneer to be the change agent, they can inspire the rest of the society. Because he was the leader of a revolution in Hungary. And he knows that you don't need 100% of the people. If the 5% of people unite and show the example and inspire the rest of the society, they'll follow. So, and in my article I wrote about my story that when I introduced the idea of 2 price for electricity in the household in Korea, then some of the people said, oh, that's a good idea. And we would like to introduce that system in our apartment complex. There are hundreds of so many households there. They, we are willing to accept that kind of system because it's a voluntary system. It's not imposing anybody, just giving an option. Anybody who just volunteer to pay. What a problem of a giving option. Our apartment is ready to do it because he is the head of the apartment committee. Then, very interestingly, the head of the next neighboring apartment complex committee, he said, in that case, the price of your apartment will go up. That was a reaction, immediate reaction, even though they are not a climate expert, meaning that already there's a kind of awareness among the people. Action for climate is something very cool, something very cool. If the people are taking such an action, these people are cool people, and then the apartment price will be going up. This is a kind of average citizen in Seoul, reacting like that. So I see that the idea of giving option for the people I think it's a very viable, feasible option.
I like that we only need 5%, according to your expert in Hungary, so I hope he is right. Are there any other short comments on collaboration before we open the floor as well for questions? So you can already think of questions that you want to pose to the panel. We will collect some. But please, Young-suk.
Thank you. Actually, I'd like to just add that, the power of, reiterate the importance of the capacity building very briefly before I answer your question. We really need to raise awareness of the importance of climate action. But then how can you do it? Yes, campaigns are powerful, but we target educators and teacher educators. And then through our programs, capacity building programs, combined with the development of curriculum guidance or policy guidance, then those capacity building programs can have a more longer-term positive impact. But then some of the participants of our capacity building programs actually try to do their local level actions. Then, including a similar example from Africa, we have many similar examples in different parts of the world. So that really makes me convinced the power of education and capacity building. And capacity building or education would facilitate what Ambassador Jung proposed, translating the commitment into action. But then we really need collaboration. David beautifully explained about the intergovernmental collaboration. We do also similar international global level collaboration, but I'd also like to stress the importance of intersectoral collaboration, both at the regional level, national level as well. Korean government, Korean Ministry of Education, in collaboration with APSEU, have trained Korean teachers, cultivated GCD lead teachers. Then many GCD lead teachers, they collaborate not only with each other, but also with the ministry, with the Provincial Office of Education, including the community, local communities. and civil society organizations. And these collaborative initiatives have proven very successful and impactful, making more than 5% changes.
Oh, that sounds wonderful. Actually, this is a perfect moment for me to also introduce you to something else that has been a result of collaboration. The International Forum on Education and Climate, it happened in Austria last year, and the University of Klagenfurt has issued this recommendation paper that I strongly advise for those of you who are interested to read it, and maybe the technicians would kindly not play the video, but give us the last slide with the QR code of this outcome paper. You can scan the QR code and come to the recommendations that they have issued for policy, for capacity building, and also for even individuals. So maybe we can see the QR code if that's possible, and skip to the slide with the QR code so that the audience can scan it. While we are doing that, Garam, I'm sure you have more to say on collaboration, please.
Thank you. First of all, I'd like to define what is scouting, mixed up together with what Mr. Kim and Ms. Lee mentions. Scouts is always translate education into real actions through global citizenship educations. But through these discussions with promising panelists, we'll ask to our young changemaker in scouting to regarding of what Ambassador Zhang mentions, they are always prepared, and be prepared. This sign means in scouts is always prepared in oath. So, but yeah, this sign with the 3 fingers.
We'll do this. 3 fingers, be prepared.
Mm-hmm.
Be prepared.
Yeah, be prepared like this. But now I want to ask later in the futures, with the next any event, are you ready for the paying for the climate fee? I will back to Ambassador Zhang later. And what I want to share, there's a lot of initiatives what we've done, but for me, I'm the young change maker, and in this stage, I want to share what is the barriers for implementing the youth-led initiatives. There's 3 barriers what I brought here today. First is lack of the direct policy influence. So, you know, like youth-led initiatives is quite like grassroots actions and also very beginning part of implementing by young people. But when we think about the government decision-making body, yes, it's quite take a long time to proceed with this young people's thoughts and idea. So what I want to suggest and what I want to change is we need to make formal mechanisms for the young people so that they can proceed what they want and what they want to change in this real society. And second is funding and support, very important and critical things. As you know, I don't know, in here, maybe young change maker, if you are have been proceeding the youth-led initiatives, then you usually rely on a temporary funding systems. So what I want to bring up here is we need a long-term financial support from government or NGO as well. And third is bridging actions and policy. So the common things from the successful initiatives by Scoutings was always we young people collect the valuable and very precise data from the international organizations. For examples like OECD and we can say World Economic Forum. Yes, there's a lot of promising international organization. They made a very variables data. So this was the things, and the second is we should establish the youth advisory board within the government to turn action-based evidence into the real policy shifts. I want to share very brief one more initiative through young changemaker from the UK Scouts. They also did a very amazing initiatives few years ago, titled 1 Million Young People. this initiatives was regarding of the reductions of the plastics uses and also the energy saving efforts. It wasn't just the local actions. It's fully influenced throughout their national level. And they also collaborated together with the governments, and they, like Scouting was the founder came from UK, so UK has been very powerful membership in their national level. So they got a good chance to collaborate with government as well. And also they planted more than 500,000 tree has been planted all around the national levels, and also restore the public green places as well. And what I found quite unique thing is they installed the LED bulb, all the streets, and reducing the climate crisis as well. So,
Thank you, Garam. I do need to interrupt you because we have 6 minutes left, and I do want to collect at least one question. So thank you for all of these examples. But is there a microphone in the room? Is anyone who really burningly wants to ask a question? Then please raise your hand. I see a lady just over there in the middle in the white. Yes, could you come down? And then maybe someone else. I want to collect some questions and then have a whirlwind last statement round from the panelists. So please.
Hello.
Quick question.
Yes, thank you. First of all, thank you for your wonderful and inspiring, thought-provoking words and messages. I completely agree on all your points about the structural kind of challenges, the top-down structure of international organizations and so on, and also the lack of incentive to do some climate action and education. And if you allow me to introduce myself briefly, I'm currently working for the IFRC Solfarian Academy, which is a think tank for innovation, leadership, and strategic foresight. And we do have this program called IFRC Limitless Youth Innovation Academy, where we support and fund youth innovators across the world to develop their own environmental and climate projects. And we have this step-by-step phases where we support more funds after another step.
Do you have a question for the panel as well?
Oh yes, sorry for the long introduction, but one of the challenges that we face is that we get a lot of participants from developing countries, but we don't get a lot from North America or European countries. So how can we kind of incentivize those people from the developed countries to also take part in these climate projects?
Thank you. Is there another one who wants to ask a short question? I see, yes, gentleman, way back there. Thank you. And then you will have to give speedy answers because we only have 4 minutes left.
So just get to the main point. Is there any academic programs or activities that you recommend students to start a career or find a job in terms of environment field, or to develop a specialty regarding environment?
Great. And maybe a very last one. I see a lady in the middle here with a black shirt. Really very brief, and introduce yourself with your name and then the question, please.
Okay, I'll keep really briefly for the time limit. So thank you for the presentation. I am studying education as a graduate student at Yonsei University. So my question is for APCU. So you mentioned the capacity building program, especially for the teacher training, but it would be important to focus on K-12 school or students. So I'm curious do you have any related program for climate engagement for the K-12 school or students? And the second quick question is, the teacher training should be put differently in terms of the capacity building. They need to improve their own capacity, but they need to able to enable students to bring out their capacity. So in other words, the capacity for the capacity building to other. So
Thank you.
yeah.
Complicated, but great question. Thanks so much. We will have to return to the panel because we have 3 minutes left, and they will need to answer now something of their liking in 3 minutes. Who wants to start? Ambassador Chung? Dave? Dave. Young-suk? Young-suk, please.
Okay, thank you for your question. And okay, I answered the third question. Okay, well, we do promote climate education within the framework of global citizenship education. And climate education and global citizenship education, they are mutually reinforcing. So for students, we don't have a direct program for students, but we have an online campus where many courses are available for free and open to public, including students. And then regarding the capacity, yes. I'd like to answer your question in person, but of course, we need customized capacity building programs. But teachers, educators, they need to have their own mindset changed, but they also need more specific skills for, how to say, pedagogical skills. How to say. Thank you.
Allow me to also use 10 seconds to answer the question of the gentleman back there. Green skills, go to www.bankimoncenter.org. There is a beautiful online course on establishing green skills, jobs, green jobs, and how you can actually progress in a green career. This course is for free. You can check it out there or on SDG Academy, and it will lead you into, hopefully, some ideas for a green career. So that's to the green skills question. We still have the one about the developing countries, developed countries. How can you incentivize developed countries? Does anyone want to respond to that? Please, Ambassador.
Before we close, I just would like to add to one sentence. Many initiatives are attempt within the box, within the system. But I'm encouraging young generation to think about how to change the system. So out of the box approach. So meaning that free market is the box. Free market is the box. Free market is the system that is bounding us. Cannot be sustainable because sustainability is not marketable. You lose money. If you are sustainable, you lose money in most of the cases. So how you can go out of the box and the system change. So I hope that the young generation could focus more on. This is why I proposed a sustainable market, not just a free market. Without sustainable market, there's no sustainable future. So we have to keep this in mind. Then what is a sustainable market? A market where carbon has a price, where climate has a price, where sustainability has a price, and it has to be internalized in the market price. Then we should be ready to pay for it. Otherwise, we cannot have a sustainable future. So I remind you, planting tree is good, but I'm not sure how much is sustainable. So garbage recycling is good, but it is within the box. But I'm encouraging you to go out of the box, how to transform free market to sustainable market, which is price differentiation, ecological tax reform. There are many approaches about it. And so in carbon pricing, I think these are the real out-of-the-box approach, and please hope that you can figure it.
I think this rounds up a quite provocative and wonderful session. You do want to have a last word, please.
Yeah. I just forgot to mention that we do have a program for youth, and we have a global citizenship education youth workshop held every year. So all young people, please pay attention. Thank you.
Wonderful. This rounds up our panel for today. Thank you so much, dear panelists, for lending your expertise, your wisdom, your experiences. It's been a joy, and I hope that you're taking away some of bits of new information on climate education. And I overstretch your word, Dave. I think it is sexy. So all the best for the next session. Thank you.
Thank you, Monica, for a wonderful session. I think this three-hand oath, I learned this in elementary school for Boy Scout oath or something. Yeah, but old school memories. Thank you very much for the wonderful session. So after a 15-minute break, we'll be inviting on the stage the leaders of the future, and we're going to hear about their efforts in making the world a better place. So I'll see you at 16:40. Thank you for joining us in this session.